Hello and welcome to a truly special episode of the Offside Musings podcast. My name is Oke Ndibe, and then I welcome you on behalf of my co-host and partner, Emeka Onyagwa. So Emeka, you're welcome to today's episode. I'm sure you're excited.
It's always a great. It's a Supreme Court woke up overnight and gave us a lovely. I think they gave us a 1 day notice. They gave the people that care a 1 day notice.
Yes,
and then they showed up and delivered their judgment as expected. If anybody was expecting something different, I don't know if I should tell you sorry that you're disappointed. The whole story, man, on his own.
So it's interesting. I mean, what you just said, I think, summarizes the mood in the country. Everybody simply said, well, we didn't expect different. You know, it would have been good if the Supreme Court had surprised Nigerians. But everybody said this was what they expected. And of course, I think that most people also felt that the Supreme Court was in a particular hurry. One hurry had to do with a technical issue that one of the presiding justices was due to retire in a couple of days after the judgment. But there was also the strong perception that the Supreme Court wanted to beat the deadline or to beat the expected release of FBI files, dossier on Bola Ahmed Tinubu. I don't know if that was the sense you got.
Oh yeah. I mean, I was expecting. I said they would either elongate it as long as things would work in their favor. That's what I said before. They would either keep it as long as necessary and hope everybody forgets, or they'll find some way to make sure that they deliver their judgment in a way it doesn't matter. So I think they realized the stakes are high. If you've gone through the logic of any of their other judgments, which they just use technicalities all through, it doesn't make any sense. And there's a good chance at this point in time that the FBI files are coming out. They've been petitioned. They're going to start coming out from tomorrow. Tinubu has, I think, over 200,000 files, and what they're going to release based on the specific query by the interested parties is about 6,000 files, little by little. I think 600 files per month.
Okay, so yeah, because I think they're going to release 500 pages per month.
Something like that.
5 months, yes.
Yeah.
So here is, as being in Nigeria, the sense that I got, as I said, was everybody, in fact, on my flight from Lagos to the southeast 2 days ago, a big discussion broke out inside the aircraft about the Supreme Court judgment, and some people felt, well, this was what they expected, right? But there were also mumblings by some people that the game was rigged against the petitioners, the Labour Party and the People's Democratic Party. And that, in a sense, what happened is that once INEC chooses who they want to announce as the winner of an election, that there isn't enough time for the petitioning parties to gather the kind of data, the kind of material with which to persuade the courts that the elections have been rigged. So that in a lot of ways, already in the Electoral Act and in the way in which the Constitution allows for petitions against the results, that for a national election like the presidency, that already no party which is dissatisfied with the result of an election has enough time to put together polling booth from polling booth, polling booth by polling booth, evidence that the election had been rigged. Quite apart from the fact, obviously, that a lot of people saw what you might call the evidence of their own eyes. I'm sure that you followed a statement by Babashir Lawal, who clearly came out and said Peter Obi won that election and won soundly.
Yeah. Look, I mean, there are so many ways to look at it. I don't think it needs so much legal analysis, but the first way to see it is if justice is not seen to be done, and it's not done. It's just what it is. It's not, you can hide behind whatever one wants. The other school of thought has been, hey, there's not enough time. Oh, making excuses. Oh, my boy, the time is not there. The Electoral Act is not there, or the fact that the opposition party should have just coalesced and fought the case, and then they would have won. The reality, again, people are entitled to their opinions. I've got nothing against people that have those opinions. I just think you're either trying to be naive, you're trying to be oblivious, or you're just simply trying to be evil. When you think that way, the reality is it's not a matter of time. It's not a matter of gathering evidence. It's maybe it's a coping mechanism for some people. Like, well, if they had more time to gather evidence, that the reality is the system is horribly constructed. It's terribly constructed. It's once you've captured state power like you have, and you want to remain in power, you will remain in power as long as you want. Jonathan maybe is the exception to some degree, and I think over the last couple of years, I've always told this story about Obasanjo and how during his first term, I realized that this whole system was a waste of time. And then when he wanted to do the second term, I've come to realize that the biggest fault of Obasanjo is making people believe in the system. That's it. He was an imperial president, and he knew that the system was flawed. Yes. His problem, and I've come to this last year, I've been thinking that his problem was he knew and he was under the right path. The third term thing was what derailed it. He should have done what Vladimir Putin did in Russia. He served 2 terms, realized that Russia needs strong leadership. Fault him or not, that's a whole different conversation. But he didn't want to create just a straight up strong man, so he amended the constitution and supported what's his name to become president, Medvedev to become president, who was going to be differential to him when he wanted to come back. He was going to be popular enough to be elected after the amendment of the constitution and after restructuring this thing. Yeah, you can say Putin is this thing. It depends on your values. Western people tend to put at the top of the values unbridled freedom. Most countries don't, and I don't really think unbridled freedom should be on the top of every country's list. I'm not in that camp. If you're in that camp, I perfectly understand your this thing, but that's the way Russia played it out, and that's the way specifically Putin played it out. That's the way Obasanjo should have played it out back then. Ever since then, all we've gotten in Nigeria is just worse after worse after worse, and we are here now, which is worse than any other thing that we've seen. Unless you are in a camp of either oblivion, or you just wanted the outcome of what you have now. Unless that, but if not, I don't see this whole debate of Supreme Court that they didn't deliver justice. And if anybody feels otherwise, so be it.
No, so you just made a very important point. The point about perception. Okay. It's one thing for justice to be done. It's another thing for people to perceive that there's even a commitment to the doing of justice in any polity. I think that the Nigerian judiciary has sunk so low in the estimation of the public that ordinarily people no longer expect much in terms of any fidelity to doing justice from the judiciary. And then you find a case where the judgment by the originating tribunal, the Presidential Election Petition Tribunal, where you have a lot of grounds that were canvassed by the petitioners, and the courts made rulings that were absurd on their face. The court disregarded some witnesses because they said these are witnesses who are members of the respective petitioning parties. And yet, they did not make the same pronouncement when it came to Tinubu's witnesses who were members of the APC. That's one. And when you have a case where Peter Obi approached the court, I think, with 13 grounds, and the court summarily would dismiss 10 of those grounds. And in Atiku's case, that he came to the court with 27 grounds, and the court removed 15 just from the certain block. So this is, I think, reminiscent, or it's reminiscent of a game in which the referee orders that more than half of the field of one side should be on the sidelines and not play, right? And when the two sides are evenly matched, right, already you are guaranteeing the outcome of the game. But in this case, where Tinubu's party has the money, has the exclusive monopoly on the means of official violence. They have the police behind them, they have the DSS behind them, they have all kinds of organs of state power. What you're doing essentially is to award the game where it is like a professional football team playing against a team of kindergartners, and then you remove half of the players for the kindergartner team, and it's so the perception here, there's this Supreme Court justice who just retired, and he offered a very damning assessment of the court. A very damning assessment of the court. He showed his sense of shame at some of the rulings that the Supreme Court has come up with lately, whether it's in the Lawan case where the erstwhile president of the Senate was not a candidate at all in an election, but the courts basically declared him a candidate. Okay? Or in the case of Imo State, where Hope Uzodinma came all the way from fourth in an election to being installed in the governor's seat by the Supreme Court. So the Nigerian Supreme Court truly is suffering a crisis of an image crisis, if you like, a crisis of confidence, that there isn't much of any faith on the part of Nigerians that this is even a serious court that takes seriously its mandate.
Yeah. I mean, you've laid out a lot of those reasons. I mean, we could lay out so many that just don't make any logical sense. They throw it away for technicalities here and there. The list is endless. Criminal convictions are not convictions; they're convictions against your bank accounts. Certificates can be printed. You can claim to go to a university, and university can't even certify you went there, and then they try to twist the judgments, the depositions, and then even say, hey, look, man, Tinubu went there and anybody can print a certificate, so you can just go to your house, bring out your printer and print that you went to university or wherever. The reality is the paymasters, elections are paid, bought in Nigeria. That's just the reality. That I don't even, for those that believe that there will have been a different outcome if maybe the other opposition parties merged, I personally do not believe so.
No.
I do not see. I think they would have eked out even if you had some of the people that clearly delivered their states, like Wike delivered his states. Even if Wike didn't deliver his state, they would have arrived at their math, irrespective of it's money playing its biggest role. And that's just, again, it's
yeah.
Can't go through all that, but it is what it is.